Hi guys, I'm Shmee. Hello and welcome back to the channel where you join me today at the Nurburgring for something I am unbelievably excited about. Today is my first opportunity to drive and experience the Mercedes-AMG ONE, the road-going hypercar equipped with a Formula One engine, and today I'm going to share this experience with you. Now, I make no secret that some of my favourite cars of all time link very closely to motorsport. My favourite of the 90s is the F50 with a Formula One derived V12. My favourite of the noughties, the Carrera GT with a V10 that was developed for Le Mans. My favourite cars of the 2010s, two I'm lucky to own, my Ford GT which raced at Le Mans, and the SLS AMG Black Series, which is a very close sibling to the SLS GT3 race car that was immensely successful. But when it comes to motorsport, the absolute pinnacle is of course Formula One, and this has the most successful Formula One engine of all time in a road car, the 1.6 litre turbocharged V6 with all of the electric systems and motors, and today I'm about to drive it. We're here at the Nurburgring GP, a circuit I've been lucky to drive a few times. I'm going to be getting suited and booted and hopping on board to chase Ben Schneider driving in the AMG GT Black Series. But before we do that, let's have a quick run around to try and steady the nerves a little bit before my first drive in the AMG ONE. In the drive, AMG ONE, Nurburgring, epic! Going out again with that was probably the best thing I've ever done. Just look at this car parked here in the pit lane, and today is the day. It's been a few years since I was at the launch of the original Project One concept at the Frankfurt IAA when Lewis Hamilton drove it onto the stage. But here we are, the car ready to drive, and a drive I'm going to be sharing with you, sharing this experience right now as we run through all of the different driving modes, for example, the road modes, plus we're going to put it into Race Plus, which drops the suspension, pops open these louvers over the front arches, and shoots this rear wing up into the air. The dual layered wing, the whole full width wing comes up. We have the second level here as well, which has DRS, going to be testing that. But this car is all about the engine, and a very complicated powertrain indeed. The 1.6 litre turbocharged V6, which comes from the 2015-2016 era F1 cars from AMG, combined with an MG UK, which is mounted onto the crank. We've got the MG UH, the electric turbo, plus we've got two electric motors up front as well, and a 7-speed automated manual gearbox. I'm looking forward to experiencing what all of this is about. In terms of aero, very slippery surface, full carbon body panels. We've got the motorsports package here with the painted AMG stars all over it. At the back, look at this diffuser, even the Formula One style exhaust in the very center. But there's a whole process and system. There's a lot to this, and inside, have a look at this as well. Pop open the dihedral doors. You are seated right down towards the bottom. There's a battery pack under your knees. The seats are mounted towards the tub. You've got an F1 style squared off steering wheel. Everything in there is for purpose, and that's where I'm about to be sat to discover more about this. Needless to say, quite excited right now, so let's go get the gear on, let's go get ready. Today is AMG ONE time. In the suit then, time to take a seat in the AMG ONE and show you the start procedure, the start process. So I'm going to do it this way, carefully does it, swing in the legs, and this is where the first thing that you'll do is with this lever here, you can bring the pedal box towards you or away from you. I'm actually in the furthest away position. You've got an electric toggle here for the steering column. I'm going to press once on the start button just to wake up the power. Once again to turn on the ignition here. This feels very, very serious right now. And then once more, which effectively starts the process. You can hear mechanical things happening all around. You've got the ready symbol here because while it's using the cats to warm up the engine, you can actually drive immediately on EV. So you've got the battery, the 8.4 kilowatt hour battery is underneath here. It literally goes through the car underneath you. While this is heating up, which takes 50 seconds, you can go off, you can drive. When that's done, we'll be able to start it. So we're in race safe, which is effectively your start mode. And these controls are very familiar from other AMG models. Your toggle here to go through those different settings. Some hotkeys on this side for your AMG dynamics, your exhaust, suspension settings, gearbox, but that needs to all be turned on. One difference is instead of cruise control, we have your recuperation options just there, which is a little different. But then you've got your headlight button just here, which is quite fun, your DRS button, neutral, and your pass button. Now the pass button instantly drops it to the lowest possible gear that it can use at that time. So if you're cruising in 5th but you want to overtake, press that, and if you're slow enough it can drop it all the way down to say 2nd or even 1st, full power, and away you go. Inside it feels very serious. Windscreen type display in front of me, but it's now ready. That icon has disappeared, which means if I turn this, we're going to get a startup. Wow, that is an unusual noise that this thing makes. Listen to that, the rawness, the craziness of it. So that's in race. But what I also want to show you is when you put it into race plus, how it drops. Now, I'll have to hold the paddle, but I need to close the door to demo this. So just have a quick watch of what happens, and I hope you can hear me here. So into race plus, hold the paddle. Down it sits, the louvre's open, the wing goes up at the back. Wow, okay, now I'm reverting it back to standard. Back up we go again. It'll pop everything down, louvre's closed, wing goes down. My goodness. All right then, I suppose we should probably get set and go drive. Here we are then. So I'm going into gear, into drive. We're starting on EV. Everything's staying on because the weather is slightly inclement at the moment. As you can see, it is a little bit wet out here. Oh my gosh. I am driving the AMG ONE. Even though it's just EV mode to get us started, I am driving this ridiculous thing. Cats are warming up. Okay, so 2 laps of warming up just to understand the highway modes and settings. And then we will start, hopefully if it dries up a little bit more, having some serious fun after a return to the pit lane. So at the moment in EV mode, but the car is now ready to start. It's actually got a surprising amount of EV power. A massive amount of EV power. And obviously the electrical whirs and all of the sounds around me. You've got a great view of where the front arches are. Fantastic view. As we come round past the Mercedes arena and the grandstand. Okay, listen to this. So this is where if I turn up into race, the engine is running. Okay, that sounds hardcore. This is just first impressions for a moment. Driving with Cup 2R tyres on a slightly greasy Nurburgring GP circuit, and my word, is it loud now. My word. So imagine this like I'm driving on the road. Consider this a road drive. We're in auto, you get a bang from that shift. Goodness, and following the GT Black Series is cool as well. Really cool. Listen to that. Listen to that sound. Now I've got the hotkeys set up so I can press this and be in manual. Gives you a notification on the main middle screen. Revs all the way to 11,000, but the shift displays changing as it warms. Obviously, the warmer it gets, the closer to that 11,000 you can go. It's a little bit slippy out here. Oh my gosh, I'm driving the AMG ONE on the Nurburgring GP. And I've driven a lot of my cars here, including my Senna. I tell you what, it's 1,695 kilos, and it doesn't really feel it. They've obviously had to work very hard to reduce the feeling and sense of the weight that you're carrying with the battery pack and all of the motors. So this is where if I go the other way into race safe, it's effectively hybrid, back into auto. It will change the way it's being driven. I'm actually going to go into EV. There we go. Full electric silence. Any issues with sound? Well, that's unusual, isn't it? This is actually quite punchy compared to, say, my SF90 Stradale when you're on electric. I'm just hyper conscious of how slippy it is right now. Hyper conscious, but obviously I'm driving a front wheel drive. That's full throttle though. It's It's a support system, it's not your main drive. You're not going to drive it primarily in electric. Go back into race. There we go. Back into the noisy setting. There's no turning traction off today, unsurprisingly. ABS kicking in a little bit, thanks to the slip on the way down to the turn there. It's very, very greasy down here at the back of the circuit. Back into manual. Now we're going to put it into Race Plus. So turn that, hold the upshift paddle, it does everything, lowers louvers up, wing shoots up, you keep holding it until it goes and blinks green. There we go, that's all, and then you go one more and you're in Strat 2, you're in qualifying mode, full power. Not that we can really use full power right now, but we'll enjoy nonetheless. Right, thumbs up. Oh, it's actually raining now. So now I'm in full qualifying mode in pouring rain at the Nurburgring. I mean, yeah, there are things you do in life that are crazy, and this is definitely one of them. I can't even begin to dare to use full power here. This is a development vehicle, of course, I should point out. This is not a customer car. I cannot believe I have the opportunity to drive it. Looking out at the louvers is just mad. Obviously the wing up behind me. Just learning and testing. So if I'm in 5th gear, this is where if I press pass, oh, currently unavailable. Oh well, that's probably because I'm in manual. In drive, there we go, instantly drops to 2nd gear. But I want to be in manual for this. I cannot quite believe that this is actually happening right now, even though my windscreen wipers are running quite heavy. I mean, the thing is, this is such baby steps for what a car like this is capable of. Now, we're already at 100 miles an hour or so here. I think that's when, oh, sidey, that's when I've used enough of Strat 2 and go back into Race Plus. State of charge too high. Interesting, so it has to run down the battery because basically the battery is completely full because we're driving too gently because of the conditions. So I need to drive it in EV to lower the battery state and then the engine can come back on. Back into manual. We're in Race Plus still at the moment. The shifting is certainly interesting. You know, it's not DCT fast, it's not dual clutch fast, and the reason for that is both to have a lighter gearbox, a single clutch is lighter, but also to be able to handle the engine. Because of the V6 F1 engine, a road DCT isn't necessarily so suited to that. This is madness, this is utter madness. They are putting so much faith in me to let me drive this in these conditions. While we're back in the pit lane, we're going to have a quick look around the car at a few more things because it looks like some nicer weather is coming. It is brighter in that direction, and that is the weather heading towards us. But let me show you a little bit more around this. Well, the car is parked at the moment down in its lower height, and we'll pop open the engine bay, remove some of those covers and show you that. I mean, just look at the wheels. Magnesium center lock wheels with these carbon fiber covers, and look, they're even marked in terms of the rotation. These are all to do with airflow and to do with cooling. The tires have the AMG ONE graphic on them, along with the other AMG logos as they go around, which are the dedicated tyre specifically for the AMG ONE. And then you have all of those flashes of the turquoise from the Petronas livery. As you go around the bodywork though, there's so many more elements to it, but I actually just want to pop open the door for a second. Look through here. You can see straight through the door with all of those additional aero fins and blades on the inside of that additional panel there, obviously all managing what's going on. Now, to pop open the covers, you actually press the button just here. That button down there, give that a press, and then this can be lifted off to reveal everything inside here. And look at the carbon fiber, look at this. The suspension is effectively, well, parts of the suspension are rigidly mounted to the gearbox, which is rigidly mounted to the engine, which is rigidly mounted to the carbon fiber monocoque. It's buried deep down in there. You can see all of the carbon for the airboxes and the engine right down at the bottom. And then this very clever system that it has for preheating the cats, as we've experienced, obviously all happening through here as well. You have these two separate sides with these panels, which are carbon and weigh, well, next to nothing, even with knacker ducts over the top to accelerate the airflow in for the cooling of the engine itself. Now, as I said, the combustion engine makes 574 horsepower. That is supported by a peak output from the electric motors, which doesn't quite add up to all of the separate figures because of the way the power is delivered, because of the way the different torque and horsepower charts kind of interact with one another. But effectively, you have over 500 horsepower of motorized addition to the combustion engine, which comes in just under 500 or so at peak output. In terms of the car itself, look at everything. Look at the carbon fiber. Look at how these blades, even on the door mirrors, are designed for the airflow. Everything obviously set up for this purpose. And the same over the front of the car. This opening here is obviously to accelerate out the air, but these blades guide air in different directions depending where it's needed. So keeping the clean air over the middle to go into the snorkel for the cooling, and sending other air around the outside. The badge is actually painted. That is not a sticker. That is 18 different layers of paint to make the badge, like on the F1 cars, under the lacquer on the nose of the AMG ONE. Everything about this car is hypercar as it should be. Every single element and detail is exactly kind of thought out, processed, developed. It's a Mercedes. It's built to the Mercedes standards, and that's why it's taken a fairly long time, I think we can say, to get to this stage. But with technology moving so fast, you can kind of understand how to get it all reliable and to get it all working properly. That's what's been needed. And my first experience in the horrible, horrible weather, as I often seem to have with AMGs, when I was recently driving the GT 4-door E-Performance, the 800 plus horsepower version of the AMG GT 4-door, it was similarly bad weather, but hopefully we can let it dry off a little bit and go out and have a bit more fun. Right then, excuse gear and all of that, whatever's going on. What an opportunity, what an opportunity. I need to go and chill for a couple of minutes. Whoa, okay. Then let me come back on this one. The car that I was just driving has instantly gone out again, but we also happen to have here another development AMG ONE, and there are a few differences about this I want to show you, as well as diving more into the interior to go through the dashboard, the displays and the settings and things. But this particular car, you will notice, has the gloss exposed carbon fiber contrast instead of the satin as we saw on the other car. So the bumper areas, the whole central section of the bonnet, the snorkel, the fin, the wing, and all of the other parts as we head around that way. And it's also parked in the regular ride height again, so we've got the louvres closed up. But it was fascinating to see how the rainwater obviously flicks out through there, giving you some idea of what the aero is doing on drier days. But I do want to show you a little bit more inside here, and the doors are obviously these huge, albeit carbon pieces, quite big and quite heavy if you look at how wide they are with all of that airflow management and everything that's going on. But let me run around towards the other side quickly. Pop open the driver door. Now I think the easiest way to climb in here is basically to sit back in, kind of fall in and bring your feet around where you're basically sat with your heels and your bottom at the same height. Now one thing I do have to say is that the pedals in this car actually go further away because of course these are development cars. They're not strictly representative of the final production cars, so a few differences and things as they go through their last testing. I think I can hear the sound of the GT Black Series and the other AMG ONE out there, but I want to run you through a little bit more about this interior and about all the screens and all the displays. I can hear them. They're about to come past, aren't they? They're about to come past. Wait for it. Oh, they've gone that way. GT Black Series, AMG ONE. Wow, the view of an AMG ONE from an AMG ONE. That's not something you see every day. That's definitely not something that you see every day. Right, let me show you this process. So we've got a storage bucket here, cover over the top of it, if you want to keep everything in place. A few hotkeys, hazards and whatnot. The start button, very prominent, central here underneath this carbon tub. One press wakes up the electric, so stuff like your infotainment and your sound system. Another press turns on the ignition, and then if you put your foot on the brake and press it the third time, or just do that the first time, you get into PD ready, which is effectively ready to drive on the EV motors, but awaiting the warm-up process for the combustion engine. And there were loads of rumours it would take ages, 50 seconds, during which time you can start driving and drive away. So not too crazy, really. Well, I'm sat here, obviously these AMG Motorsport seats are straight into the tub. The sound system grills all around us. There's a little storage cubby in the centre here with a fire extinguisher if you opt for it, and a few other leaflets and books and things. We'll close that back up. Behind us you'd have a view of the engine. This is a test car, so a lot of cables and stuff back there, obviously in there at the moment. And then we have things like the camera for the rear view mirror, although on a completely empty Nurburgring GP, I must confess. Oh, that sounds cool. I never actually looked at that. Never needed to look at what was behind me, knowing that there were no other cars other than the GT Black Series I was following. But let me take the camera and show you more of this. This is all actually quite familiar if you've driven other Mercedes-Benz models, and I'm lucky to own a couple, so I know a lot of these settings and things, but I want to show you what stands out to me. You'll notice we have the message here, perform full warm-up at next engine start. So if it's not ready to instantly be started, you'll get that. So you can push the message away just with a press there. But on the dashboard, it keeps it fairly simple. You've got all of the data basically that you need. The rev counter right the way across the very top, your gear in the center. Obviously we've only got the ignition on at the moment, so all of the different lights and things, but you've got your tire pressures, temperatures, and the information that is key basically. You can use the left toggle to go through a few different screens, so you can see some service information, the pressures, your charge, settings for the suspension, your battery data, various different things that are obviously helpful to see and to know, and you can toggle that basically to have whichever display you would like on. As I mentioned, here is where you have the recuperation settings. So this is to do with the recharging effectively in your hybrid, which is very different to the regular road cars, and a couple of different screens that you can instantly hop to straight away depending on what data you'd like to have instantly at your fingertips, and your pit speed or your cruise control by another name. Your light button, you press it to blink the lights, but if you hold it, after a matter of time, it actually automatically blinks, which is kind of fun as well. I'm gonna have the sound of a car. You can't see them, but can certainly hear them. DRS, as I mentioned, flattens out the rear wing to help with speed down the straight line. Neutral pops the gearbox back into neutral. Pass, as I demoed, instantly drops it to the lowest gear. And then on the right side is your toggles that control the central infotainment system. So here you'd go back to home and do that with that, or touchscreen of course, and your media here. Down at the bottom you have your different driving settings: individual, EV, race safe, race, race plus, and Strat 2. And as we know from other AMG models, on the left side you can change what these hotkeys actually do. So you can have it just straight on the gearbox, you can change to have the exhaust maybe if you want to control that, although it's very loud inside, not gonna lie. Set this to whichever setting you might like out of it. So the steering wheel is super functional, very easy to use. Obviously the Dynamica finishes, you've got the shift lights across the top and the center, making it very clear when it's time to shift to the next gear. But I want to move on as well to show you a little bit more through this, because we have the AMG performance screen specific to the AMG ONE, where we have a ton of data and information, your energy flow, your drive, your aero, you name it. You can set this to show you what you would like to see, and I'm always fascinated by these different displays, you know, the various electric motors, the MGUs, and what all of them are up to. Everything in here, super fun. Even, I think if you're in vehicle, you can see how much you're pressing on the pedals as well, which is always quite fun. 100%, oh gosh, That takes a really solid push to get it to 100% and go full screen with that. We then get to the AMG Track Pace. This is where you can basically bring up a lot of stored circuits or store your own, see your delta, see your track information, look at it back afterwards. Always great fun. I've used this a lot in my GT Black series on track. Then settings, obviously your usual navigation, phone, media, radio, apps, store, all super easy to use, very functional. Home takes you straight back. You can set it up, you can configure this, you can do whatever you would want, and you can talk to it as well, obviously, if you'd like to just interact with the car in the simple way. There's a lot of carbon fiber in here, I tell you. Looking around at the door cards, the One logos that you spot everywhere. The seats are so cool the way they're in the tub. I want to show you actually the door release, which is just here. You simply give that a pull when the door is closed, and that pops the doors up. To pull them down, you've kind of got the grabs on the outside of the vents and the window controls. Just closes into place. Steering wheel lowers itself down. Super simple, super easy. The mirrors sit very high out from the doors. Still door mirrors, not wing mirrors, but very far up and out to at least give you a view over those arches with the stars hand painted back there. Very special. So the interior, it's a cool place. Sitting in here, it's a very cool place. Spent a lot of time looking around. It's got the harness mounts actually right there on the carbon as well, straight on the bulkhead. And then obviously that engine is mounted direct to the carbon monocoque behind you, which is why you feel it all in such a raw and exciting way. Just gonna switch it back off. Steering wheel moves up, pop open the door, give that a push with the elbow, the hinge and mechanism down there. And yeah, probably time for me to step out. Wow, would you look at that? I've just been told I can go for a lap in the dry. I can do some laps now that the dry has arrived. Yes, I look a bit weird. I've got seconds before the next session, so everything has to be thrown in really fast. Let's do this. I can't wait. All right, this is super last minute. A huge thank you to the team here. I've actually got a bug inside. Let's get rid of that. Yeah, there we go. That's gone. Okay, so we're in Strat 2. Let me just move this, pop it up. AMG ONE Nurburgring GP in the dry. Let's do this. Let's have an epic time. This is what I've been looking forward to. Wow, feeling the power, so much more grip than earlier on the dry track with the Cup 2Rs. Tyres are really warm. My word, the power. Oh, the grip as well. The grip is mad. Front end grip. This is what we've been waiting for. That power is phenomenal. time. Tight through the T1 hairpin. This level of grip, oh my goodness me, the G-forces. The transition as well. The acceleration. This is mad. This is absolutely ridiculous. This is absolutely bonkers. And then here, the grip, the grip. You can probably go flat through here. 220 kilometers an hour is quick enough for me though. As we come back around the last corner for the best couple of laps of my life. AMG ONE Nurburgring, epic! Absolutely epic! Wow! Wow, wow, wow! Wow! I'm just in awe at what I have just driven. I can't believe it! I can't believe it! I've been waiting for this car, and I've not only just driven it, I've driven it here of all places. I've driven it here. So I think if we go down to Race Plus, it recharges a bit more of the battery. Yeah, I can literally watch the battery charging. I can see it going up in its state of charge while we drive. Obviously the recuperation under braking puts a lot back into it, but we do need to be delicate with the brakes. Just use the recuperation and the regenerative braking where possible here. Oh my goodness gracious me. It feels so much smaller and lighter than it is. The gearbox isn't the sharpest in the world. It takes a moment to just shift between gears, but it makes sense in terms of the weight, the feel, and feeling like a race car, you know, feeling like it's come off a racetrack, feeling like motorsport. Because at the end of the day, that is what this is. This is an F1 engine in a road car that I can drive. What on earth have I just driven? What have I just driven? What is this? I don't even know. I don't even know. Oh my good Lord. That is what I dreamt of. That is what I dreamt of. And this is where we can actually use the pit speed limiter. Set for 60 kilometers an hour, accelerate up into it, and it will stop me driving basically any faster than this. And on that note, I'm going to turn it off. Excuse me for a minute. Special. Do you know what? Going out again with that was probably the best thing I've ever done. It's up there. It's up there with the best. I'm trying my hardest to work out how to string together some coherent words to describe this experience. Driving this thing, such a distinct sound and a complete dream. We have the car that I've just driven and the second car here as well in the pit lane at the Nurburgring GP with two AMG ONEs. This is the stuff of dreams. If you rewind back to when it was introduced, It's a day that I've been looking forward to, and I can't believe I've actually now driven it myself, here of all places. But what's perhaps the most fascinating thing is that this is a car with the engine as driven by Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg, and now a development of it driven by George Russell as well, in a car that I can hop into and press a button and start and drive. I don't need a full team of mechanics, the full F1 pit crew to look after it. Yes, as you might have heard, it does need the engine heavily rebuilt after 50,000 kilometers, that's 31,000 miles at great cost, a couple of €100,000. But I tell you what, if you've driven one of these 50,000 kilometers, props to you. You've had so much epic fun that I think that is totally irrelevant. Not all that many hypercars do so many miles to begin with, but today to experience it for myself in a straight line, it's so fast. I've been lucky to drive quite a few 1,000 horsepower plus cars nowadays, but having that instant torque, the electric motors giving it that direct kick, the speed with which you accelerate out of any corner on that dry run, just madness, just absolute madness. And then the grip, the cornering, obviously following bend in the GT Black series, but whatever that can do, you know, this can do the same and more. The same tyres, well, the same type of tyres, the Cup 2Rs, but the specific formula for this car, and just the amount of aero and the different driving modes, and to have experimented and popped it down into Race Plus and Strat 2, and the suspension drop, by the way, I think I said it backwards earlier, it's 37 millimeters at the front, 30 millimeters at the back. When it pitches down, it does that little lift before it drops down, and obviously reverses as well. It's such a cool thing. There have been some things along the way, the delays, of course, the talk about the US and the homologation side of things. But you know what, when it comes to this level of engineering and technology, the fact that this exists, the fact that this has been made and engineered and it's here to be driven is absolutely surreal. It's completely crazy that this has been possible. I am standing here, having just hopped out of this, now in the sunshine, here at the Eiffel Mountains, one of the most famous racetracks in the world, at the Nurburgring GP, having just driven this, and I don't really know what else to say. You know, it disguises the weight very well, it has to be said. Gearbox could be a touch faster. I mean, I get the lightweight side of things, as I said while I was driving, but you do want it to just fire a little bit faster. But you know what, when you're at 11,000 RPM, feeling that engine through the whole of your body, because inside it is so loud and you feel all the vibrations, it is so emotional. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, this has been unbelievable. I cannot say thank you enough to the team at Mercedes-AMG for the opportunity to drive this, to the team who have made this, to the customers who have bought it as well, and to you guys who support this adventure who have made today possible. For me, this is a massive dream. This is something I've been looking forward to for years, to drive the AMG ONE, and I've now done it, and I feel very, very lucky. 275 incredibly lucky customers of these things. But what a day, what an amazing experience. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for your support as always. That's it for this time though, and I'll see you again very soon. Cheers.